Welcome, everyone, to the third annual State of the Pike. The State of the Pike is an annual event that is co-hosted by the Pike Presidents Group, which is an organization of 10 Columbia Pike area civic associations, and the Columbia Pike Partnership. At this time, I'd like to introduce the new director of the Columbia Pike Partnership, Andrew Schneider. Andrew.
Thank you so much, Adam, and thank you to our nearly 300 people who have registered and are here in attendance, taking time out of their busy days to be here. I've been on the job just over 2 months, and I've learned a lot about Columbia Pike. I've learned a lot about the best way to navigate Columbia Pike, as we were just talking about a moment ago. And I know that I'm building on the legacy of so many people who've come before me, including my immediate predecessor, Kim Klingler, who did so much for the Columbia Pike Partnership, and so many who are also on this call. And I'm grateful to each and every one of them, as I know all of us are, for helping build such a vibrant and exciting Columbia Pike as part of a vibrant and exciting community. The Columbia Pike Partnership exists essentially to be the advocate, convener, and visionary organization of the Pike. Our vision is very simple: to foster an authentic, exciting, and accessible Columbia Pike community where social, ethnic, and economic diversity is truly celebrated. And in doing so, not only are we building on the legacy of so much that has come before, we're building towards an even more exciting future, whether it's the Barcroft project that we'll talk about, the Career Center, or so many other projects that are either underway or yet to even be envisioned. And I'm really grateful to be a part of the CPP team, which is a great team at this moment as we look to the future. One of the people who is really helping both Columbia Pike and our entire community, if not region, look towards the future is our county board chair, Libby Garvey, who's not only been on the Arlington County Board for 14 years, but she has been leading most recently in her, apparently, last year on the board, our Vision 2050 initiative, which is going to help the entire community think about not only where we are today, but where we want to be over the next 25 years and beyond. So it is my distinct pleasure to introduce our county board chairwoman, Libby Garvey.
Thank you so much, Andrew. Everybody can hear me okay? And I won't go on long. And Andrew, it's nice to see you here in your new capacity. It's great. And Adam, always a pleasure. I was just thinking as you guys were introducing, one, it's only been 12, a little over 12 years. So it's not 14 quite. I did 15 years on the school board.
I was a history major, not a math major.
Yeah, it's fine. I've been around for a long time at any rate. And I remember, I was just thinking as I was listening to you, what was it first called? The Columbia Pike Revitalization or something? I should have done my own historic research, but I'm sure Adam will remember, and a lot of people on this call. There have been a lot of iterations, and it's really impressive to see how far everybody's come. I am doing a visioning effort with the whole county, and I would love, actually, at this point, thank you for kind of setting that up for me. I really appreciate it, Andrew. Would love it if, the partnership would like to participate. We've got, a simple way that we've had people going, writing a postcard from the future. You all could do it, dear Arlington 2024, here I am on the Pike in Arlington in 2050, and it is wonderful because, and what your vision is for the future and what you'd like the Pike to be in the future. Certainly welcome that. We're doing sort of these postcards from the future as a simple technique to do it. It's easy. People can draw pictures. They don't have to actually use words. But we also are inviting people to do more in-depth kind of thoughtful pieces and go in depth if you'd like for some suggestions on what you'd like the Pike to work for. Look like, obviously you've already done a lot of work, and I'm assuming it's going to be very similar to what you've done, but maybe not. So good to check. I thought I'd talk I know we've got great staff coming. I do want to say there's so much more attention to the Pike than there was when I came to Arlington in 1976, a long, long time ago. And it really is good to see the attention. I know there are a lot of you've got a great lineup of our staff on many different departments talking about things. So I look forward to staying on and hearing some of their presentation, but we really are focus, the Pike is a crucial, you know, a crucial artery for us in Arlington, and it's finally kind of getting some of the attention that it deserves, which is great. I thought I'd talk just a wee bit about construction on the Pike. Is that all right? Stop me if I'm getting in the wrong. Yeah. So I think you now have, I was just thinking, I think 3 of the 5 board members live, if not on the Pike adjacent. Takas and myself, I think as some people know, my daughter and my mother, who I'm the caregiver for, live just off the Pike in Douglas Park. And then we've got Maureen is not right there, but she's not too far off. But between me and Takas, you've got some folks who are really, really close. And I go on the Pike every day, multiple times a day. I have had several tires that I've had to take nails out of, so it's not easy. I was on with the manager, and I as my position, I should know this off the top of my head. And I said, Mark, remind me, why are we doing this on the Pike? What are we doing? Because that obviously it started out a little bit on the whole planning of the streetcar. We won't get into that, but the issue is under the Pike is a lot of old infrastructure, old pipes, gas pipes, water pipes, old that it's getting really old. It tends to fail and really needs to be a lot of it improved and and modernized to be last again another 60, 70, 80, 100 years. So that needs to be done. So that's part of what's going on. And if you think about it, it's really painful right now, I know, but you can see the parts that have been done. I think they're much, much better, especially once those trees grow up a little bit and get a little bit more established. And it's painful. But sort of think about if we don't repair this infrastructure, it will be constant breaks and constant problems and disruption when a water main breaks here, or a gas line's not doing well there, or an electric line's not doing well there, or there's an internet problem here. You could be having all kinds of things going on constantly. So this hopefully is going to get us in a really good shape for a long time to come. I understand it's painful. Some sections have been completely done, as y'all know. And there is a segment from Orm to Joyce that should be done by the end of this year, we hope. And then there are 3 more segments that'll be done more like the end of or in 2025. So we've got another 18 months or so to go with all of this, maybe 2 years. But we are getting there, and I appreciate everybody's patience. And I do really quite literally feel your pain because I drive on the Pike all the time. I think I'll just end. I think you're going to get a lot of details from the staff coming up. I think that's mostly what I wanted to talk about. I really appreciate your support. I think there's a little feedback here. Appreciate your support with the visioning effort, and we're all happy to have suggestions on how we can gather people's ideas about what they want. And we are planning to pull it all together at the end of this year into probably 2 or 3 kind of alternate visions of what Arlington can be in the future. And then in 2025, after I'm gone, the harder part will be probably picking which vision we want, but it might not be as hard as we think. The kickoff event we did, which I think some of you attended, really appreciate you coming. Really, because we were at such a high level, showed how much we agree on things. There's really a lot of agreement in this community. It's when we get into the details, we start, having disagreements about how we're going to get where we want to go. But I am really pleased to have the visioning process to start and remind us all that we have a lot in common. We have a lot of goals we have in common, and realize that as we that'll help strengthen the community as we have the issues discussing about how we actually get there. And with that, I think I'll conclude. I'm pleased to be here. I'm looking forward to listening into the presentations, and thanks for having me.
All right. Thank you very much, Libby. As always, great remarks. And we look forward to the visioning effort because it's important to all of us, not just on the Pike, but for Arlington as a whole. And I think it's a fantastic initiative. I just want to go over briefly what our agenda is for today. So we've had our welcome and introductions. We're doing a series of 5-minute presentations from 6 county departments, AED or Arlington Economic Development, CPHD, the Department of Community Planning, Housing and Development, DES, the Department of Environment and Transportation, DPR, our Parks and Rec Department, Arlington Public Schools, and we'll round out the 6 sessions with Chief Penn of the Arlington County Police Department. So after we finish that, we'll give you a little bit of instruction on a couple announcements, tell you how to use the breakout rooms that are set up for your interaction with the various departments. We'll have 20 minutes to do that. Then we'll come back and we will have a brief summary of what went on in those breakout sessions so everyone knows what was going on. And then we'll wrap it up and get you on your way, hopefully by 1 o'clock. So far we are basically right on schedule within about 40 seconds. So it is my pleasure to introduce our first speaker from staff for today. Quick reminders, sorry, put that back there. I forgot that, Andrea. As we're doing this, please stay on mute. We have the chat function. I think everybody is now well versed in Zoom, so use the chat function at the bottom if you have questions. Those questions will be saved for our breakout sessions when they'll be addressed. And as always, as we've done for the last 3 years, both the presentations and the recordings will be available online in the next few days at the columbiapike.org website. All right, so sorry to get slightly ahead of myself, but I'd now like to welcome Kate Ang, who is the Deputy Director of Arlington Economic Development, or AED. Kate, welcome
Thanks,
to the
Adam.
state.
Thank you. It's nice to meet everyone virtually. Next slide. So want to talk to you guys a little bit about Arlington Economic Development. What do we do? What's our North Star? So we focus in the area of fiscal health, which is all about maintaining our revenue base, our tax base. 30% of our tax base comes from business-related activity, including commercial real estate, and jobs, creating economic opportunities for all. Next slide. We work very hard with economic development, but it's not us alone. Economic development is everyone's business. So we work with the partnership. We work with all of the bids and our place-based organizations, but we also work with the state, our educational institutions, the chamber, and others to bring business to Arlington. Next slide. We are looking ahead in terms of how is the county doing economically, and there's some bright spots. We've got a 2.2% unemployment rate. That's incredibly strong. It is lower than the region and the state. We added 5,500 jobs last year. We've seen an uptick in consumer spending. Remember, we saw a down dip post-COVID, and consumer spending is on the rise. We've seen our hotel occupancy go up, and we're seeing a lot of small businesses actually come to Arlington and want to grow. So we're seeing our counseling sessions in terms of our support for the small business community increase as well. And we are still continuing to see more multifamily residential units come online. Next slide. Despite those bright spots, we do have some challenges ahead of us, or headwinds, as we like to say. And you've probably heard a lot that hybrid work has impacted us. So our office sector is struggling a little bit with that adjustment. Our new construction is slowing. It's harder to get money. So the development pipeline is slowing down. And we do have a really booming tech sector, but the workforce for that, we've got a backlog. We need more people ready to fill those jobs. We are seeing an uptick in consumer spending, but that daytime worker has not yet returned. So we've got some gaps there. And while tourism is rebounding, the business traveler has yet to come back. And we do have strong household income, educational attainment, but there's still some disparities racially in our community that we need to continue to address. Next slide. As we think about our priorities here at AED, we've got 5 divisions, and we've got a lot of efforts to kind of deal with those headwinds. So Arlington Innovation Fund, we're trying to catalyze startup businesses. We are focused on business attraction and retention. Our commercial market resiliency initiative is all about repositioning our office space and making sure we can kind of balance our supply and demand. Our cultural affairs division, this is all about public art, pop-up events, and cultural activities that bring our community together and bring them together in our commercial districts to spur business and foot traffic. Our relaunch program and our biz launch program, this is targeting our small business community, and we provide technical assistance and award-winning resources to those members of our community starting businesses. And tourism. Tourism is another revenue generator. So we have a brand new campaign called All in Arlington, which is about bringing people here to our community. Next slide. As we look to Columbia Pike, what do we know? You've got about 10,000 jobs, 45,000 residents, and about 98% of the businesses are small businesses. Next slide. What we know right now is that there is development happening. You're going to hear from some other departments on some of those projects, but recently completed was the Westmont Shopping Center, Arlington View Terrace, and the Trove. Next slide. In terms of office vacancy, the good news is while countywide it's at 22%, which isn't great, here on the Pike it's not as high. So there is strong demand for office in the corridor. Next slide. From a retail perspective, this is probably the strongest indicator that you all are doing well. So there is strong demand for retail, which means there's not a lot of space, and that's both an opportunity, but also could be a challenge. Next slide. Apartments and multifamily, this is something that in terms of housing, there's also still strong demand in the Pike. So real quick, I'm going to highlight the fact that we at AED, next slide, are doing a couple of things, continuing with our Biz Launch program. About 43% of the businesses that have come to our relaunch program are coming from the Pike. Next slide. We're also continuing to support, again, driving tourism foot traffic into the Pike. And so this new campaign is highlighting destinations that are out there so we can get more of our visitors to visit restaurants, retail, and other key amenities. Next slide. And finally, our Cultural Affairs Division, we are delivering and partnering on the transit shelters and having public art incorporated. We're supporting the Blues Festival in 2024, and we do a lot with our art truck, which is to activate pop-up spaces to bring people together for the community. With that, I'll turn it back over to Adam. Thank you.
All right. Thank you, Kate. So next up, our second department for today is CPHD, the Department of Community Planning, Housing, and Development. And I'd like to introduce the Housing Director for Arlington County, Ann Venezia. Ann.
All right. Thank you. Great. And so I'm going to start today with a broad look at the rental housing market. And I know Kate touched on this a little bit, but the vacancy rate for the Pike is now at about 5.2% for the residential market. And for context, around 5% is considered the sweet spot for vacancy. So we're pretty happy with how that's looking right now. Switching over to the rents side, 1 bedroom, 2 bedroom, and 3 bedroom, or I'm sorry, 1 bedroom, 2 bedroom studio apartments, the asking rent rose at a rate greater than inflation, which was about 3.1% for the same period. But meanwhile, though, for 3 bedroom apartments, the average asking rent rose by less than inflation, which is a really big contrast to what we saw last year. So this report is updated quarterly, and we will put the link in the chat. Next slide. So this chart illustrates the relative affordability of rental options along the Pike. There are 2 types of rental units shown in the pie chart that are market rate units with no restrictions on renter income, and committed affordable units, which are subject to both rent and income restrictions. And I just want to note the segment of the market that saw the greatest change over the previous year is the market rate units affordable up to 80% of AMI, which is the green wedge in the chart. Next slide. So shifting to policy and zoning studies, as many of you know, the County Board approved a set of zoning ordinance amendments in March of last year as a result of a multi-year missing middle health study. These amendments allow for up to 6 units per residential lot in areas of the county that previously only allowed for single detached homes. And so what does this mean for the Pike? So because there's already a plan and a vision for Columbia Pike, areas within the Columbia Pike Planning District are not eligible under EHO. So the county did start receiving zoning applications for expanded housing options in July of last year, and by the end of the year had issued 26 zoning permits, 4 of which were in the 22204 zip code. Next slide. So I'm going to switch gears now and focus on 2 of our affordable housing projects along the Pike. So the first, in April of last year, the Arlington-based nonprofit Arlington Homes and Communities completed the redevelopment of a portion of the Arlington View Terrace apartments. So in addition to providing affordable housing, the property includes trauma-informed design, a community room, free Wi-Fi for every apartment, and on-site resident services. The complex also integrates many sustainable features such as solar energy, electrical vehicle chargers, and a green roof to support stormwater management. Next slide. So I also wanted to provide an update on Barcroft Apartments. As a reminder, in the fall of 2021, Barcroft Apartments, the property was listed for sale. And at that time, the Barcroft property was the largest market rate affordable apartment community in Arlington. The sales process was highly competitive and the listing received a lot of interest. So fortunately, Jair Lynch, with support from Arlington County and the Amazon Housing Equity Fund, was able to acquire and preserve Barcroft Apartments. And as a result of the acquisition, all 1,335 units were committed to 99 years of affordability, up to 60% of the area median income. And no resident was displaced as a result of the acquisition. Since the time of the acquisition, a variety of engagement opportunities and county board approvals have taken place, which is listed here. Most recently in December, I did want to note that the county board approved a phase 2 renovation use permit and a site-wide affordable housing financing plan. Slide. As mentioned, part of the county board actions in December included county board approval of the finance and affordability plan. And so 3 big things to note here. This includes a continuing commitment to no displacement of current residents, as well as rent stabilization. We also are committed to meeting deepening affordability needs of the property. And lastly, the county is also committed to capturing savings that may be available to manage the $150 million county acquisition fund loan that we use to help Gyerlich acquire the property. Next slide. With the affordability and financing plan aspects of the MFDP now approved, we're shifting into a review and analysis of the land use phase of the MFDP. For this analysis, staff will primarily reference earlier policies, which provided the most explicit guidance for Barcroft's future. And that includes the neighborhood's area plan and the Columbia Pike revitalization plan. We're also going to reference other comprehensive plan elements. Staff will work to receive resident and community feedback on the Gyerlich proposal during the first half of 2024. And as part of this effort, an expanded form-based code advisory working group has been created to solicit stakeholder feedback. And this group represents each civic association along Columbia Pike, as well as representatives from key county committees, commissions, and community groups, including the Barcroft Resident Council, and from advocacy and stakeholder groups like the Arlington Community Foundation and the NAACP Arlington Branch. So Barcroft resident feedback is our most priority, and there will be a variety of in-person and virtual opportunities for Barcroft residents to participate in this process. Next and last slide. Meanwhile, the second half of the year will resemble our more traditional approach to engaging the regular form-based code advisory working group and the Planning Commission Zoning Committee to review any proposed form-based code changes that are necessary to implement the established vision for Barcroft. And with that, I'll turn it back to Adam. Thank you very much.
All right. Thank you, Ann. Our third group today is the Arlington Department of Environmental Services. So DES, I'd like to welcome Chief Operating Officer Mike Moon and the Deputy Director of Transportation Development, Hui Wang.
Thanks. Next slide, please. Next slide. Yeah, thank you. DES manages a diversity of both services and projects along Columbia Pike, ranging from a roadway maintenance that we assumed from VDOT back in the late 2017, to transit service, to major capital projects. Today, we want to highlight for the agenda the status of the Columbia Pike multimodal project, along with highlighting a few of our facilities projects. So I want to turn it over to Hui Wang for the first part of the agenda. Hui?
All right. Next slide, please. So this is just a reminder, and I think you live through the day-to-day. So this is how Columbia Pike is divided into multiple segments for improvement. And we have completed some segments, and right now, segment F, which is South Wakefield to South Oakland, is expected to be completed in 2025. Segment A is the federal project that they are expecting to completion in 2025 as well. And the county work, the part of the county work is expected to be completed in late 2024. Segment D also goes into late 2025. Segment C is expected to start construction in 2024 and end in 2025. Later, we have one more slide with a staggered timetable that would give you a better view. Next, please. This is a little bit more detail of the federal highway project. Again, this one, the current prediction is to reopen the Pike in summer of 2024. Currently, part of Columbia Pike is closed, and we are rerouting all traffic to South Nash Street, which is the new South Nash Street, and Southgate Road. Bus stops has been relocated, and there's temporary pedestrian and bike access during the construction. Construction on the property of the National Cemetery will continue after the Pike project is reopened. Next, please. This is to highlight some of the improvements to be looking forward to on segment D. So you can see multiple transit station will be upgraded, and the median and the landscaping in the median and the sidewalk will be improved. So the transit stations at South Walter Reed Drive and South Courthouse Road are all going to be upgraded. Next, please. DES, we do maintain very close very up-to-date information on the ColumbiaPikeForward.com website. We provide bilingual pop-ups and signage in the project area. We also conduct door-to-door business outreach. That's not to say the construction does not create challenges for the businesses, but we do our best to communicate, and also we partner with AED to promote the Pike business during the construction. The big point of takeaway is to inform the community that we are open for business even during the construction. Signages and social media messages are being pushed out. I would encourage you, if you have not already done so, to sign up for the newsletter updates and to see the traffic impacts and maps and learn about the project progress. Next. Yep, this is the timetable I was mentioning. This staggers up the different segment, and you can see where we are. We are getting close to the end. We are at the beginning of 2024, where all of these segments are anticipated to be wrapped up somewhere in 2025. Next. Yeah, Mike, this is where I hand back to you.
Yeah, so thanks, Wei. I think I may be having some problems with my video, but I would just continue real quickly for brevity. We are 3108 Columbia Pike is currently a parcel that we've taken over for parking purposes. The demo, we've got the demo bids have been received by the county. We plan to have that on the March board agenda for demolition. And this will convert the site from 63 parking spaces to 92 parking spaces that are available for public purposes. The initial 2.5 years of this will be for overflow purposes for APS as they build the career center, and then for general parking purposes after that. Next slide. And then one other long-term planning project that we have on the Pike is the Columbia Pike Fire Station. The county does have capital improvement funds for the acquisition of about just under an acre parcel just west of Greenbrier. It's a proposed facility. Will have a 4-bay station accessible to Columbia Pike. The actual design and construction implementation will be further vetted and defined as part of the upcoming CIP Capital Improvement Program update. Thanks.
All right, thank you, everyone. Next up is the Department of Parks and Recreation, DPR, and Tim McIntosh is here to speak.
Yeah,
take it away.
Thank you. Good. 1 minute until afternoon. So good morning, everyone. Next slide, please. I'm going to cover a few of the programs that take place in and around the facilities on or adjacent to the Pike, and then I'll get into a few of the upcoming projects. So DPR has a myriad of projects that we sponsor at the different centers along the Pike. First is the Enjoy Arlington classes. These are both at Arlington Mill and the Walter Reed community centers, where we offer art, music, youth sports, and at Walter Reed, we do indoor and outdoor tennis, and dare I say the P word, pickleball. Next, we do Families Unplugged, which takes place at Arlington Mill. It's just an opportunity for families to come together and kind of disconnect from the electronics. really just hang out with each other, talk with each other, play some games, do a variety of activities that are offered at the center. In addition, there are family nights at Carver Community Center, which is very similar to the Families Unplugged and quite popular. The last one had over 200 people in attendance, just an opportunity, again, for families to hang out, come together, and do a variety of activities or games that are offered at the center. Another popular program is the Teen Drop-In program, which takes place after schools until about 6 o'clock. Again, an opportunity for teens to come and use the gym or play board games, all different types of teen resources. Phoenix Bikes is there, so another great program. Of course, the county has a robust summer program of camps. As you know, the registration has already, the catalog went out in mid-January, and registration is ongoing right now and will start and go through February. Next slide, please. Just a couple things on the senior programs. We have 55 plus programs at both Arlington Mill and Walter Reed that are really popular. 5 days a week we do those. And then I will note the last program that's of importance is the Social 60 Cafe, which is a federally funded program that's subsidized by Arlington County. And it just allows seniors of lower income to get hot meals. Next slide, please. Just a quick update on Covell Heights Park. It did finish. We had a nice ribbon cutting over the summer. This was essentially a replacement of the existing infrastructure that's there. It's on here because we are moving forward with designing and making the bridge that goes over to the playground ADA compliant, and that is to be completed in 2025. Next slide. Next slide, please. Sorry. Okay, thank you. This is the Douglas Park project, phase 1, which is, let me go back to Douglas Park. Douglas Park was essentially an upgrade of, there'll be 2 phases for Douglas Park. One will be sort of the more natural area, and then phase 2 will get into the playground. And this is going to include just some new site furnishings, improvement to a pedestrian bridge, some invasive removal, and stormwater management. Next slide, please. Which was Monroe Park. Again, another capital maintenance project that will replace the existing infrastructure there. The project includes also landscaping, ADA compliant pathways. Next slide, please. Bailey's Branch Park in the Columbia Forest neighborhood. This is a combination project between the Arlington Neighborhoods Program and the Department of Parks and Recreation, which will upgrade the existing infrastructure in the park and update the furnishings, signage, and those types of things. Next slide, please. We save the best for last. This is the Walter Reed pickleball courts, which will be the first dedicated pickleball facility in the county. It is funded through what we call our emerging uses program. We have had 3 extremely robust engagements on this, and we are ready to move forward with construction documents, bidding, and then construction later this year. That's it. Thank you.
All right. Thank you, Tim. Next up, another big project right off the Pike. We have Arlington Public Schools, and joining us today are the project manager for the Career Center, the senior project manager, Steve Strickler, and the executive director of planning and evaluation, Lisa Stengel. You are on. Welcome.
Thanks, Adam, and good afternoon, everyone. I'm going to go over the Arlington Career Center project, the construction of the new facility. If you could go to the next, thank you. So the project bid is being issued today. We've got a 6-week bid period. Bids will be coming back in mid-March. That should allow us to go to the school board for information and action for the construction contract in April, with the intent that we would like to issue a notice to proceed for the project in early May. Of course, all those the date for starting that is going to be very dependent on the permitting process. We're in the middle of that right now with Arlington County. Seems to be going well, but that could have some impact on the actual start date. The construction on site is a 3.5-year total duration, split into 3 phases. We actually did some predecessor work over the summer of 2023 and the fall of 2023, as shown there, for reconfiguration of the MPSA play areas and demolition of the old Fenwick building down to slab on grade. So phase 1 is a 2-year project, construction of the new Career Center facility along South Walter Reed, essentially from the existing bus loop all the way down to 7th Street. We'll show some graphics on that in a minute. We are also taking over or managing the construction of the County Complete Streets project on South Walter Reed between 5th Street South and Columbia Pike. Seemed to make sense for us to manage that project so we could better coordinate it with the construction of the Career Center along the edge of South Walter Reed. There is new streetscape adjacent to the phase 1 construction that will also be occurring during that phase 1. The phase 2 work would start in summer 2026 as soon as we occupy the new building. In summer of 2026, we would then proceed to do some selective demolition on the south side of the existing Arlington Career Center facility in order to make room for construction of a new 4-story parking garage at the corner of 9th Street and South Highland. And associated with that phase 2 work as well, there would be construction of new streetscape adjacent to the work zone for phase 2. Once the garage completes in summer of 2027, and that's a 1-year duration on the garage construction, summer of 2026 to summer of 2027, we would commence with phase 3, which is construction of a new play field at the location of the existing parking lot. There's also some site work associated with that, repaving of the bus loop, and some other small site work on site. And then again, new streetscape adjacent to the phase 3 construction. And then finally, the mill and overlay of new paving on surrounding streets. Next slide, please. So this is the existing condition that exists out there today. Of course, you've got on the left there, the existing Arlington Career Center with the Columbia Pike Library. On the bottom right corner there's a couple of relocatable classroom trailers out there on the existing parking lot. You can see the parking lot, about 150 spaces out there currently. At the bottom there of the graphic, within the red box is the old Fenwick building. This is showing the slab on grade that was left that'll be demolished as part of the new Career Center construction. And then top right on the screen is the existing Montessori Public School of Arlington. Next slide, please. So the final site plan condition, you can see the new ACC facility, the footprint of that extends along South Walter Reed from the bus loop almost down to 7th Street. Existing MPSA, the Montessori school, stays in place. We don't do anything in this project with that building. The existing ACC, you can see, has a smaller footprint because this indicates that we have demolished the south side shops in order to make room for the parking garage that you see at the corner of 9th Street and South Highland. And finally, the green space there is the new field that will be installed where the existing parking lot is now. Next slide, please. So I have a couple renderings. This is an aerial view from the southeast showing the new building. You can see the building steps down as you go south to north from Columbia Pike to 7th Street. It goes from a 5 to 4 to 3-story building. It also steps back from South Walter Reed back into the site. You can see on the back side there, the green space, that's the field on the existing parking lot. Next slide, please. So this is a street view, actually, looking down Columbia Pike from 7th Street. At the facade of the building, there's a secondary entrance. You can see kind of on the bottom right of the screen there. Next slide. And this is a view from South Highland Street, looking back on the back side of the building. You can also see the playfield there along Highland. Next slide. Couple views of the parking garage. So this is as you're turning off Columbia Pike onto 9th Street. Next slide, please. Corner of South Highland and 9th. Next slide. And this is a little bit further down Highland, looking at the north side of the garage. Next slide. We are looking at dedicated contractor parking off street. Contractor be responsible for that. As Mike Moon indicated in his presentation, we're working with county staff on potential use of 3108 Columbia Pike, about 90 spaces there. We are going to maintain 250 spaces for staff for the duration of construction between on-site parking and the adjacent ECDC parking garage. And there's additional information on the project on the Engage website. I think that's it for.
Yep, I'm just going to jump in here. Sorry, Adam. We're just going to go ahead and go on to the police department. We have some great information about the demographics from the public schools, but in order to be fair to all of our speakers and our guests, we want to keep it to our 5-minute cap. So thank you for that, Steve. I would encourage you, if you're interested in the school populations, the demographics, the other issues related to APS, not just the Career Center, to join that breakout room. And now I'll turn it back over to Adam to introduce Chief Penn.
Sure. Thanks, Andrew. So our final department today is the Arlington County Police Department, and we have Chief Andy Penn, and also appears from my screen what I'm seeing, we have Deputy Chief Wayne Vincent. So welcome, gentlemen, and floor is yours.
Good afternoon, and thank you for having us. My name is Andy Penn. You know, I'm the current police chief, been with the county about 32 years. So I want to jump right in to be respectful of time. And next slide, please. I think it's important to give a basis, a foundation of how the police department operates. So we have 4 key initiatives that drive and vision everything that we do. And all of these are intended to make sure that we are doing everything we can in collaboration with our community to make sure we are providing for the safest possible community. So the first is crime control and prevention. In this area, we have to be very intentional about how we deploy folks, where we deploy folks, making sure that we're working in collaboration with all of our regional partners to address issues that are impacting not just Arlington, but the entire region. And this encompasses traditional police work, responses to calls for service, and things like that. The next key initiative is transportation safety. When we have, you know, so many different users vying for our roadway space, cars, bicycles, pedestrians, scooters, et cetera, it's important that we're very proactive in making sure that we try to create a space where everybody can use it and use it safely. We do this through a 2-prong approach, which includes both education, and if that doesn't work, moves on to enforcement. The third key initiative is community engagement. Arlington has done community policing since the late 90s, but our commitment here is to work with the community. I firmly believe that we're at our very best when we're working in collaboration with the community, and I think that's what we're doing to make sure we're outreaching and working with everybody involved with the goal of shared public safety, because it takes us all. The final key initiative is employee wellness. This is focused on taking care of our folks that we ask to go out and make a difference in the community. We have great staff, so it's important that we take care of them and provide resources that they may need. So everybody in the police department, from me to the newest officers, are expected to contribute positively to this every day. Next slide, please. So I want to touch on staffing very briefly. I don't want to dwell on this, but I wanted to provide some perspective. Staffing is impacting every police department across the country, so we're not unique. But as you can see, we have about 70 vacancies. Our departures have outpaced our hiring over the last 3 years. Again, something that's affecting everybody. So we've been very intentional to make the changes necessary to make sure that we are ready to live up to all of our core services, that we have the staff out on the road at any time of day to respond to whatever happens. We've done this through reorganizations, prioritizing overtime, and, you know, leaving some positions vacant. So, and only investigating the more serious crimes. Obviously not something that we wanted to do, but the goal here is we have made every adjustment, and our staff are working an incredible amount of overtime to make sure that we're living up to our core services. So while we have a staffing crisis, we've made many adjustments to make sure that we are focused and intentional about keeping Arlington safe. So we're happy to talk more about this, but I'm going to turn it over to Chief Vincent to talk a little bit about crime and engagement.
Good afternoon, everyone. Next slide, please. And so what I just wanted to give a kind of big picture 360 of crime in Columbia Pike in 2022, in 2023, and this first quarter of 2024. Keep in mind that this big picture data that I'm sharing with you encompasses all of our partnerships, civic associations. What I'm hoping to do is provide a more detailed data in the breakout rooms, but this is something I just wanted to share with you all. Just a couple of quick bullet points. You know, we've had some incidents, I think 3 right now at the ABC store on the 2900 block of the Pike. I want you all to know that that is actually not only a county, but a regional series that's going on. We did have 2 arrests made last month related to this series, but we're not sure if that's gonna kind of end the series, but that continues to be it. Car theft and larceny from autos continue to be a challenge. Again, we know that in most cases, people are leaving their cars unlocked, and that's causing those larcenies to occur. But in this case, for us, most recently, 5 of our thefts from vehicles have been offenses where it was only license plates. And I shouldn't say only license plates, but they were license plates, and one was an airbag. Next slide, please. So I'm going to talk briefly about business outreach. Business outreach is a unit within our community engagement division. And so with that, I'm going to hit a little bit of time I have left. Business outreach, again, we've done things like along in the Penrose Square, crime prevention through environmental design, where we've given some recommendations to reduce crime. And as well as we've also done some incredible outreach with some of our businesses along the Pike, for such as Coffee with the Cop, Papusa with the Cop, and of course festivals at Tyrell Park. I'm going to leave now for respect to time, but as we get into the breakout session, I have some more things, some more data, and some information, because I know there's a lot of questions surrounding graffiti. Thank you.
Thank you, gentlemen. Appreciate it. All right. At this point, I'd like to turn it over briefly to Andrew Schneider, the Executive Director of the Columbia Pike Partnership, for a couple brief announcements of some activities that the CPP has coming up.
Thanks, Adam, and thank you to all of our speakers, not only for doing such a great job representing what they are doing, or what they're going to be doing, but also for keeping, for the most part, within our timeline. We are on schedule at the moment. We have a very large event coming up at the end of April. We are not going to talk about it as a team for the next 36 hours because we've been so focused on this event. But starting next week, you'll start to hear more about this event. This is our primary fundraiser, and we count on the support of our business and families and residents, sponsors, to help both support the Pike and help us celebrate the Pike. And this year will be very important because we're having an important conversation with leaders from Jar Lynch, APA, and others, talking about not only Barcraft, but affordable housing writ large along the Pike and in our community. So that you'll hear more about that. You can also find out a lot about the Columbia Pike Partnership and our other events, including our monthly lunches and other events that are taking place throughout the spring on our website, columbiapike.org. So with that, I will turn it back over to Adam.
Thank you, Andrew. All right, next slide. All right, so now it's time for our breakout rooms. So we just changed this slide this morning because we realized that Zoom has, as usual, is having a few updates. So if you look on your screen, you should be seeing somewhere down the lower right a icon for either breakout rooms, or it may be under the more if you have more than the number of little icons that can fit on your screen, depending on your screen size. So you click on that breakout room. Next slide, please. And you will see when you get in there that we have 6 breakout rooms set up for each of the speakers and their departments that we've had joining us today. So you can choose which one you want to join and learn more information about. I'd like to point out each of these breakout rooms will be captained by a member of CPP staff or a CPP board member who help to moderate the discussion and prompt some questions and keeping track of what was said in the chat for the various departments. So each attendee, when you're in there, you can leave a breakout room with a little symbol in the corner that says leave room, and then you can choose another breakout room or just stay in the main channel until we get back to our wrap-ups. Next slide, please. So again, we ask that you raise hands when you want to ask a question, and please be mindful and respectful of all others who are in the room, that they have the chance to ask questions as well. So the breakout rooms to this year will close promptly at 12:45. You'll receive a 1-minute warning that the breakout rooms will be closing. You can choose to leave the breakout room at that time and join the main channel, or at the end of that 60-second timing, everyone will be brought back into the main room for the summaries. Next. Again, the rules: keep your questions and interventions to no more than 30 seconds so everyone has a chance to participate in the discussion. Please always be kind and respectful to your fellow guests that are in the chat room with you. Mute your microphone when you're not speaking, and please ask questions. That's what this session is all about, is for you to ask questions of the various departments. Next slide. And with that, we start the breakout rooms. So we'll see you at 12:45. All right, everyone. I hope everyone was able to join the room of their choice, or bounce between rooms, which is what I actually did and what I usually do. So at this point, we'd like to each of the team leaders, as I mentioned before, we have team leaders from amongst CPP staff and CPP board members in each of the breakout rooms. I'd like you to give a short 90-second summary, and Andrea will be timing you and giving you warnings when your time is up. And just pass it on. When you're done, please pass on to the next presenter. You don't need to pass to me. And then Andrea, you can pass it off to Andrew when you are, or excuse me, Amy, you can pass it off to Andrew when you are done. So with no further ado, Mike Garcia is going to tell us a little bit about the discussion with AED. Mike.
Hey, thank you. We have great participation. Penrose President Alex Sakis asked about the Fillmore development, and not only that it is vacant, but there are no for rent signs. There are still condemned signs up there. Nobody seems to, the public, if you're walking by, would not know that they're looking for tenants. And Kate mentioned that they will follow up and maybe reach out to the owner. They have some homework to do there. And that we clarified it is temporary space as opposed to long-term space. We asked about Class B and C office space. Are there more amenities that can be built on the Pike to increase those? And that's really up to the owners. We talked about increasing foot traffic on the Pike to help both the restaurants and the businesses that are here. And Portia from State Arlington mentioned that there are definitely neighborhood focuses on the way for visitors and workers who are here to get into the neighborhoods, not just go to the big chain restaurants or the restaurants and the hotels. And we also asked about having more events and how do we get more events at the spaces in the Pike to bring people in. And we also talked about potential transportation, such as a dedicated bus or connector to the Pike. That's it.
Wonderful.
Hi, I'm John Snyder. I'll be talking about the Planning, Housing, and Development, CPHD. We focused on housing, as could be expected. And initial question was about what are other tools besides building a new project that can help with affordability, particularly for people who are feeling the squeeze in market rate affordable units. There are a variety of different tools and subsidies and assistance that are available from the county, but everyone should understand that they are targeted for people who are at incomes of 40% of the area median income and lower. So it's for those who are at a more of a middle income, there really isn't much that's available there. And it is really focused on the lower income, and it's a matter of resources as well. The county is exploring converting, in general in the county, converting office space to whether office space can be converted to residential. We have a limited amount of office space on the Pike right now, but those buildings are potential candidates as well. We have, there was a question about equitable distribution of affordable housing throughout the county, in that the Columbia Pike area has 34% of our apartments are committed affordable, and a huge rest of the percentage is market rate affordable. And the county staff pointed out that has been a lot of push to get more affordable projects in the RB corridor. It's up to about 28% of the overall committed affordable housing for the county. And the Crystal House development, which is pretty big in Crystal City, is moving forward. It's over 600, I think it's about 650 units there. Question about housing in the future. What's it going to look like for all these people who want to move to Arlington and we want to welcome? And that'll be found in the various sector plans and corridor plans, like the Roslyn sector plan, the Ballston sector plan, and the Langston Boulevard new plan that was adopted. And with all of that, we expect that Arlington would be able to welcome about 80,000 new residents over the coming decades. So that is it for CPHD, and I will throw it over to Alejandra.
Thank you. I was at the breakout room with DES, Department of Environmental Services and Transportation. Surprisingly, it was a very quiet room this morning, but the discussion centered around enhancing pedestrian access and public transportation along Columbia Pike. There were some questions about, like the construction of a pedestrian bridge around 395, and also questions about the bike route, which is Cleve and 9th Street. What are some of the efforts to improve the bus services, including infrastructure upgrades and services frequency enhancements, such as the 16M route? What are some of the strategies to minimize disruptions during construction involving the community engagement, like coordination with the small businesses? What is the project success will look like? How it will be measured once the Columbia Pike Forward multimodal project is completed? And the overall answer was, like having a sense of placemaking, and what is the priority that is placed when it comes to construction and around its pedestrian safety, and how are those options provided when making decisions. And the aim for that is, to minimize the detours and provide a route that is safe passage for pedestrians. Back to you. Who will be the next person? Diana and Stephen.
That's us. Hey, thank you, Alejandra. Stephen from CVP and I were in the Department of Parks and Rec, and I will let him give the summary.
All right, thanks everyone. We had a fairly robust discussion that kind of went all over the place. I will summarize as such. Foxcroft Heights Park does plan to be upgraded and made ADA compliant. The timeline is not sure as of yet. Penrose Square's expansion has been delayed due to the Elliott not being redeveloped so far. So that is on hold. They will let us know if our, of course, movie night space there will be disrupted, or if we need to relocate. As far as additional green and park space on the Pike, any kind of future visioning things, we have the master planning and public space planning opportunities that are coming up. We need to get involved in that and make our voices heard. So when those opportunities come, we're going to make sure we share those in the newsletter and everything else, so anyone who wants to get involved in planning can have their voice be heard. there has been addressed and noticed a need for some kind of youth programming in Tyrrell Hill Park. What is asked for is like a 2-day-a-week program in the summer. It's not, there's no commitment been made to it yet, but it's been identified as, oh yeah, we see the need for that. So that's that. I'm going to connect Brino with Sushmita to see if there's any possible partnership with Studio Pause and any of the youth programs at Arlington Mill. And that's about where we left it. I think I'm throwing it to Shannon with APS.
Thanks, Stephen. Hi, everybody. I'm Shannon Bailey. I'm on the board of Columbia Pike Partnership. Over at APS, we did spend a little bit more time to give Lisa the floor to share some of her overview of a lot of the kind of statistics and demographics of the schools along the Pike. I think for many of us on the call, we're probably familiar with some of the resource strains, particularly at the high school level. Wakefield is full. And so, obviously that's influencing a lot of the efforts to redo the Career Center. So it's really useful and helpful to hear from Lisa and just share more statistics. And while we didn't have the slides either, I know that those will be distributed at the end of the call. There was conversation about a little bit of the process in regards to, APS in the schools in regards to the resource strain. So we talked a little bit about the boundary process and how students are redistricted. Noteworthy and very thoughtful in regards to APS is, that's a pretty disruptive process as far as redrawing lines and moving students and families around. So, that's not necessarily the first method of trying to figure out how to address capacity issues at the school level. We talked specifically about the Even Start program. So at a lot of the schools, there are programs that are being run. It was at Barcroft, and now there have been some arrangements to move that program off of the school property into another space in order to allow for, the space and growing needs at Barcroft. So a lot of thought is going into the resource strain. Some specifics that didn't come out during the program is that there's, a lot of the weight of the students are happening in and around the Columbia Pike corridor. So, we are going to need to be able to accommodate the students. Most of the growth is happening at the high school level. Again, Wakefield being at capacity. There's more actually of a decline happening at the middle and elementary school ages, interestingly. We did talk about the I'm sorry, what was it called? Ashley had a good question asking about the student generations. And so a lot of the forecasting and kind of what goes into the process to work around the numbers. So it's a complex algorithm, but all to say, using data and trends to make, the best informed decisions as possible. We touched a little bit more on the new Career Center and the development plan, some uses of the community spaces. Bethany at the very end there kind of got caught off as far as trying to tell us a little bit about plans to potentially, relocate the Montessori school into some of the other spaces with the Career Center in order to kind of, again, play the shuffle of resources. So, that was kind of an interesting nugget to get at the end there. So I think that about covers it. And if anybody who was in the meeting, one thing Meredith was asking about the schedule of some of the road work that's happening in conjunction with the Career Center, some of the road and street projects. So it sounds like the timelines for those are pretty similar. So a lot of the road work that's happening on Walter Reed and some of the perimeters of the school development efforts, it sounds like those are probably about 2 years out overall, and that the team's absorbing those responsibilities in tandem with the development of the site. Thank you. That's all I got. And with that, I'll kick it over to Amy, our police department.
Sorry, I had my mute on. Right off the bat, Chief Vincent shared with us that they have made 5 arrests related to graffiti. So good news there. We talked about how they are approaching recruiting new officers, some programs that they've got in place and ones that are coming up in terms of marketing. And we also discussed the Arlington Restaurant Initiative, where the police department works directly with a restaurant and its employees to improve relations, to understand what overservice is, and to work with their customers. The other thing we talked about, one of the first things that came up was double parking, and especially around the Columbia Pike Walter Reed node, which I know we have all shared in that pain. Our community members offered some information to the police department regarding what time of day that tends to be the worst, so that they can keep an eye on that. And then one of the last things we discussed was the concerns over the overdoses in the schools, the opioid issue, the fentanyl issue, and learned how the police department is working with APS, even though they don't have resource officers in schools anymore, but to maintain a good relationship between ACPD and the school systems. And another part of that, and this is kind of a bigger picture, I think, not just for ACPD, but in general, what programs are there available to engage, especially our high school kids, in and around that issue. And that was about it. I'm going to throw this back to Andrew, I think, to wrap it up.
I think so. I just wanted to say, on behalf of Adam and Henderson, the president of the Pikes Presidents Group, on behalf of the entire CPP team, our great staff, our great board of directors, and or equally importantly, all of our civic leaders who took time at both to be here and for the continued work that we and you are doing on behalf of our community. And finally, a huge thank you to our representatives from across the county. We are grateful for your dedication, for the information you shared, for your continued willingness to listen and engage in dialogue with us. And we know, like many things, that the best is yet to come. So we will be sending out these slides. We will be sending out follow-ups, and we hope to see you at upcoming Columbia Pike Partnership events and receiving your interest in our Pike Progress Lunch at the end of April. Until then, stay safe, have a great rest of your week, and we look forward to seeing you soon.